I think I always made the comment that once a miller, always a miller.
Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant! I don't believe it! I swear I do not believe it! Good heavens, he's done it again! Another promotion for the big man.
I've got 12 bottles of champagne in my office and we're going to drink them all night.
Do me a favour, drop me off in Rotherham.
Hello, very welcome back to New York Talk. Thank you all for being with us on this Sunday evening, earlier than normal, but you'll still get the same amount of nonsense, contradictions, and everything else that we can think of when it comes to Rotherham United and football in general. We have the most popular man in North Wales with us, Mick. How is Mick doing?
I'm not going back. I go there regularly. I'm not going back. I'll be driven out of town.
Oh, love it. We'll come up to that. Tom is with us. How is Tom?
Yeah, Tom is good. Not Danny yet. I think not yet. Yeah, I'm all good. I think I'm a lot more positive than a lot of people would take for granted. I thought yesterday was good, so I'm in a positive mood.
Can't be. They deserve to win, though, Tom. We'll come on to that. They clearly deserve to win. I don't know you're talking about me. We'll come on to it. That's fine. Danny is with us. No, Michael, how is Danny?
Yeah, Danny's fine. Danny's wife, yet to be found out. So the webcam's off at the minute. Yeah, just got in from work. I've been teased royally about losing to Wrexham, but I'm all right. How are we all, lads?
Tired for some reason. It's been keeping up with all the comments from football fans. Has been interesting over the past 24 hours or so.
It's tiring work trying to be positive, isn't it, lads?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Right. I'll be honest with you, it was one of those that's quite difficult to know exactly where to start in it, because it was a game where nothing really happened. There was one goal in the first bit, and nothing else really happened for the rest of it. We're going to start with the question, as we always do, which is not necessarily directly related to the game, but still important, I think. Simon Thorne, regular contributor and does his own vlog, Simon Thorne, says, what should we do to get with Malik Willis to get the best out of him consistently?
Good question.
And that's a big question, Mick, because Malik Willis last week was unplayable. That performance last week against Peterborough for the spell in that game was a championship performance. Maybe even higher. It was a brilliant performance. Yesterday against Wrexham, he looked like a League One player or a low-end League One player. He couldn't get a touch. He couldn't get involved in the game. It was a really frustrating afternoon for him as a player, I'm sure, but as a fan watching him as well.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd need to reiterate that I'm not a professional coach. So
okay, interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's the $1 million question as far as Malik Willis is concerned, isn't it? You know, yeah. I think everywhere he's been, he's kind of been in and out of games, and that would appear to be, I don't know, it's a problem for him. And as you rightly point out, when he's on it, is he on it? But yesterday he wasn't. I got the feeling yesterday he didn't play out as wide. He weren't as wide as he was against Peterborough. I don't think that was necessarily anything other than him, in positioning himself badly rather than anything else. I don't think it was a tactical thing. So yeah, I don't know. I do not know what the answer to that is. And if anybody ever finds that out, they're going to have a hell of a player on his hands and on their hands. Maybe Steve Evans will do that. You know, he's certainly bringing it out of him at times. It's just consistency is the issue. And I think Nick there in the comments has absolutely hit the nail on the head. You know, if he was consistent, he wouldn't be with us probably.
Yeah.
Can I butt in and say one of the reasons why I think, and I yes, we know how inconsistent he is, but I think their formation and their style really didn't suit him, because if you think about how often it was Bramall against two of their players and James on an overlap, and how much it was Wilkes, and he sort of was isolated against two players. I think the only time he really was isolated one-on-one, I think he beat his man. I think he beat McLean. So, but when he beat McLean, he then had the centre back to deal with, and it was just a bit. It's kind of tough to get in the game. I thought it would have been would have been a case more for our wingers to attack their centre halves rather than the wingers helping as well. Because I thought our fullbacks maybe could have done better in that regard. But I think, yes, he's very inconsistent, but I think that sort of formation to go up against for a winger is really tough. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's just tough. But he definitely wasn't at his best.
No, I wonder if Wilt's just one of those players where you just got to go, well, sometimes he's going to be great and sometimes he's just not going to be on it. And you need to kind of accept that and kind of enjoy when he is good. But when he's off it, be positive enough to make the sub. Like Evans did yesterday, brought Holmes on. We'll talk about Holmes later on, but it was positive to make the change because it wasn't working for Wilt. So maybe that's the way forward to kind of manage him better than we have done in the first games before this one.
Yeah. I agree.
Is Danny with us? Is Danny Wi-Fi clonked out so much?
I'm still here. Sorry, I didn't know that was directed at me. I do apologise. But no, I agree that if Wilkes was more consistent, he would be playing at a higher level. And I agree completely with what you've just said, Matt. Enjoy him when he's good, and effectively be frustrated when he isn't. But when I was speaking to the lads on the Wrexham podcast, the way I described, Ollie Rathbone, they were saying, well, when's this version of Ollie Rathbone going to arrive for us? But it's like, that's what you remember of the players who, have the moments of brilliance, but are also more steady, potentially off the beat the majority of the time. I still remember Ollie's goal against Wigan. That's pinnacle Ollie Rathbone. And I think we'll remember Wilkes' time with us for his absolute crazy goals that he scored. And, I'm personally okay with that. I just hope that he finds a vein of form that can help us out soon, or else he'll fall into the category of, it were a shame he wasn't better for us, which I don't want him to do, because on his day, he's a fantastic player and can score from anywhere outside the 18-yard box. It's just a shame we didn't see that against Wrexham. And the one chance that I've seen on the highlights from him was a decision that should be made better, where he should be squaring it into the 18-yard box, but he tries to score from an impossible angle. But again, that's potentially something he can learn for later in the season.
Yeah, that was one of the most frustrating moments of the entire game. He'd done something really amazing to get that position and smashed it. Well, should have been a goal kick, really, but John Wells, good evening, guys. You let me down this weekend, but seeing Mick upset the Welsh was probably worth it.
Mick's now barred from going to North Wales, can confirm.
The absolute reaction of Wrexham fans has been, I was going to say surprising, but it's not, is it? You've got this product that's been attracted by non-football fans, and this is the reaction, I suppose, that we maybe should have expected. Or am I being too harsh, or is it maybe the reaction we should have expected?
Listen, the problem with it is that when we do these post-match things, it's immediately after the game, and nobody cares one jot about what I'm going to say now. Nobody cares at all. But it ain't easy doing it because your head is completely an absolute shed. However, what I said yesterday, I stand by it 100%. 100%. And you're right. The comments that have come through, it's like, tell me you've been watching football for 12 months only. Yeah. Without telling me you've been watching football for 12 months only. It's if there are any Wrexham fans watching who feel that way, who feel aggrieved about what I've said, for the heart of thinking, right, you can still be the better team and lose games. That happens. That happens loads of times. Once you watch football a bit longer, you'll probably understand that. But in the meantime, just enjoy your win. You won. Well done. Congratulations. But everything I said yesterday, I stand by it. Stand by it 100%. They were the worst team that we played this season, by a country mile, in my view. However, they are very, very good at what they do. And what they do is they break the game up. They essentially just dirty the game. It's classic Gareth Ainsworth football terrorist tactics, and it works. It's effective. It got to be effective because they're second in the league. So well done. But you weren't the better team. We were. There's no doubt about that. I think anybody who has watched football for long enough, you can see who played the better football. However, we were ineffective in and around their area. They weren't. They scored.
I think if we had a more effective defence, we would have probably given Wrexham a scare, because we've seen over the last couple of games, especially the Peterborough game, that we seem nigh on incapable of defending set pieces and crosses from out wide. And, we didn't get in Wrexham's face quickly enough. It's almost like we showed them too much respect, and that's how they scored after 14 seconds or whatever daft number it was. But no, I agree, Mick. From seeing the highlights, Wrexham are very organised. They break up every vein of play that you try and pursue. They dig in and they get results out of it. I think the only time that they've been completely overwhelmed by a better team is the Birmingham game. But we saw firsthand how good a team Birmingham are this season.
The thing is, though, Danny, Birmingham are so much better in that final third than we are.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to be, and that's why they managed to come out on top. But,
yeah, exactly. I think with Wrexham, in the greatest of respects, the bubble will burst and they will get a few shock results. Whether it's in League One or the Championship, we'll have to wait and see. But there'll be some point where someone will absolutely hammer Wrexham because they'll be able to play through the way that they play. But unfortunately, we just weren't good enough moving the ball forwards and getting into goal-scoring positions to actually undo them. Again, like I say, to compare to Birmingham, they were so much better in the final third, and they absolutely destroyed Wrexham. They made Wrexham look like a League Two team. If we were like that in the final third, we would have done the same, but unfortunately, we're not. The only time we really drove forward was when Holmes came on, and I'll tell you what, he's going to be some player. We need to sign him on a longer contract than we have, because goodness me, he's well up for it, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, without turning this into a Wrexham podcast, that style of play, we've seen this with Phil Parkinson at other clubs. We've also seen it with Gareth Ainsworth. This style of football works really good in League One and League Two. Got Gareth Ainsworth promoted at least once. I think got into a playoff final as well with him, but don't work in the Championship consistently. Now this is a bridge that they may have to cross in a few months' time, but you can't play that way in the Championship and make progress. It just doesn't work. It's not. We tried it a little bit in the past, haven't we? By playing a similar kind of football, and it doesn't work. They have more money, I suppose. Maybe it will be different for them. But this is that kind of style of football. League One's a level. You won't progress any further than we won't progress in the Championship with that style.
But this is exactly the point, isn't it? They're trying to do a job. They're trying to get out of this division, and this is the method that Phil Parkinson's chose to get out of that division. And hopefully for him and for them and for the actual Wrexham supporters, brilliant. Hope they do. I genuinely do. I hope they do. I hope they go as far as they can. And once they get to that position, then I'm sure they'll invest again. And I don't think Phil Parkinson will manage them in Championship if they get there. This is one of the insidious byproducts of social media, isn't it? Whoever shouts loudest is they're the ones that sort of get believed. I'm sure the vast majority of Wrexham fans went home yesterday happy with 3 points, and rightly so. Absolutely aware that they probably didn't play the best football, but they got the result. It's effective. I don't understand why people get upset by saying, "Well, you weren't a better team, but you were effective."
Wycombe fans used to do the same. Do you not remember? Under Ainsworth, it was
take it on the chin. You did really well. You came, you scored early, and you defended a 1-goal lead for 90 minutes plus.
Yeah.
Why can you not be happy with that? You weren't the best side.
It's an hard job to do, to defend that scoreline for 90 minutes.
So people get all precious about any sort of criticism whatsoever, taken out of context completely. But once, like I said earlier on, once you've been watching football for more than 12 months, you'll get to understand it a bit more. But in the meantime, keep shouting, keep moaning at everybody that says anything against you. It's
And make sure to
pathetic.
subscribe.
Listen. We've got our own supporters who are exactly the same. Every club has them, so it's not. This is not a dig at anybody other than people who just decide, we're just going to remove any context from everything, aren't we? And cry because somebody said something I didn't like.
It did make a change though from Saturday evening, not being abused by our own supporters.
Yeah,
so it's been for us this season. It's been Rotherham fans abusing us. Now this week, it's been obviously another set of things. That makes it's still abuse, but it makes a difference somehow.
It's interesting, isn't it? We went to Colours before the game, and I was stood at the bar, and I spoke to a chap who comments on it regularly, who said he's been fed up. He's been fed up with the podcast recently because we've been overcritical of Steve Evans, etc., etc. But we didn't sort of go outside and have a scrap about it. We stood at the bar, had a laugh, talked about it. He said what he thought. I said what I thought. When we both went to match and supported the team, we didn't get upset and call each other names out because that's what real people do. You know what I mean? That's what actual grown adults do.
It's almost as if being respectful and having a different opinion go hand in hand, where you're not screaming at each other if you disagree, as long as you're respectful to
Danny,
each
you
other.
are way behind the times, mate, with that. You are way out of step with reality. If I don't agree with you, I have to call your names. You don't remember being at school. I remember that.
I just tended to go and get a pizza if I disagree with somebody.
Yeah.
Sean Green says it's winning ugly. Yeah, it's winning ugly. Absolutely is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway. Shelley says Nombi isn't a lone striker. He should will come on to that. Well, Paula says totally agree. Mick. Wrexham wasn't what I expected. Shame Welshpool had to score. I thought that was an own goal until we got outside the ground and somebody told me Mullin scored. I just assumed it was an own goal from where we were sat.
Yeah, I thought it was an own goal. But
what are you going to do? Tom, let's have your two pence on this. Football is a sport full of contradictions, and we've said it before we started. You can be the better team, and not win, and the other team can still be happy about that. And for me, that's kind of how it played out. We weren't amazing. I'm not sitting here saying we were amazing, but we should have done something with the few chances we created, and then we would have get at least a point.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're putting into perspective, when we say we were the better side, I think we need to clarify that nobody thinks that we were great, because I can think of maybe one chance, maybe two, that were actually clear cut, and that's where you give credit to the other team, because I don't we had to press for a goal, and it left us exposed towards the end of the second half. And I think they had better chances than us towards the end of the second half. So for us to sit here and say that we were the better side, I think is fair, but I think maybe a little bit carried away. I think it's put into perspective how little threat we pose in the final third, because like everyone's saying, Wrexham played such a deep line, defended really well, and that's the sort of side that you need creativity, final third, bite, a bit of edge, and we still lack it. I think we looked better when Holmes and Hungbo came on. We looked more like we could get at them. Bramall on an overlap was really dangerous. We looked really good, but I mean, we still look awfully just no idea what we're doing at set pieces, both attacking and defending. We've got no clue how to defend any type of cross into the box. When we go forward, we were playing it about really well, but then when it got to the final third, we still look like we don't really know what to do. I think we need two or three. I think we need just a couple more players in that final third that just give you a bit more edge, a bit more creativity, because Hacks and Teehee do the same job. Powell's the only one with a little bit of creativity in that midfield. Obviously, Wilkes has his moments, but obviously wasn't at it yesterday. And Bramall is a quick left back a quick wing back who was playing at winger. So it was a game that said more about us than it did about them. I think they knew what they were doing. They were really structured. They tried to hit us on the break, which they did a couple times. Credit to them. It would have been really interesting if they didn't score in that first minute, because it would have been a completely different game. But having said that, they scored in that first minute because we can't defend crosses and we just weren't awake. And as soon as that happens, we were out of the game. I thought their right back was the best player on the pitch, in all honesty. That right wing back, he was excellent. Absolutely terrorised James and Bramall. So, you know, we can all sit here and say I think there's still a little bit of frustration 24 hours later that we didn't win that. I think if we would have won that and then look back on that performance, I think we would have said, right, we deserve to win, but they weren't. They weren't. They don't. It's hard to say. They weren't second in the table type quality, but having seen the rest of the division now, they probably are. I mean, they're not the greatest team that we've played this season. They're not on the ball. They weren't great, but off the ball they were really good. So it's really tough to say. But if I'm a team now that goes up against Rotherham United, I'm just saying let them have the ball, because that's something that we really don't know how to deal with. We can have a lot of possession. We can move it not really that quick. We don't really get into good areas, and then we don't really do much. I think we really struggled without Clark Harris yesterday, which is fun to say. I think we just need a little bit more stability. But I was impressed by that first half, especially. I think second half it dwindled a little bit. Apart from when Hungbo and Holmes got on, but yeah, I think we just need a little bit more edge in that final third, because other than that Nombe half chance that he maybe should have scored in the second half, it was looking. You couldn't see where a goal was coming from. Really, there was no sustained pressure, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's quite a lot to cover tonight, actually, but we'll do as best at the time we've got. Brian Thompson says, and makes a good point, they did have the chances to extend the lead through a cleaner shot head off the line. They were everything we were under previous management, organised, spirited, and did the basics well. There's a reason they're organised, spirited, and did the basics well. This squad's been together for 3 years. Some of them longer than that. As much as we criticise Steve Evans for what he's done, he's only 12 games in, whatever it is now, plus last season. That Wrexham squad is so tight-knit together. Don't forget the fans and everything else around the players, and the management's got them organised and know what they need to do. That's why they are so good. Now, in 20 games' time, we might be somewhere near that level. Stevens might have been able to get us to somewhere that organisational level. But we're so early in the piece that it's understandable that they're going to be kind of the better from that side of things. It's was expected almost, I'd say. Well, it is expected with budget they've got as well. It's one of the things, Danny, is if you're going to play a Wickham-style team, a Gareth Ainsworth-style team, what you really, really, really don't want to do is concede early. That's a cardinal sin of playing that kind of team. And that goal, oh my God, is frustrating. Because you've got Ollie Palmer, who is really, really good at holding the ball up, so we don't challenge him. We let him have the ball. You've got the right back, I think it's Bennett, who is, we were told before the game, Colin was spoke before the game, that he is really going to put a really good cross in. We don't close him down for a cross. And then you've got Paul Mullin, who's one of the best lower league strikers going around, proper fox and box kind of player. Cameron Free just lets him kind of waltz past him. Yeah. It's just awful. So, the bits of quality from Wrexham, fine, but that is avoidable in 3 different places. It's so bad. Yeah,
it's a perfect storm of how not to play against Wrexham, to be fair. But yeah, you mentioned there when we play Wickham, like especially under Gareth Ainsworth, the one thing we always said was do not concede early. And sure enough, when we never conceded against Wickham, it was always a 0-0 draw. You could effectively bank on it being a 0-0 draw when we had Paul Ward as manager and he came up against Gareth Ainsworth, other than I think one occasion, I think it was. And yeah, it looks like Wrexham have set up exactly the same. But, you know, I was reading a piece by Paul Davis. We never even touched the ball in the build-up to Wrexham's goal. And I can only apologise to anyone who does the night out in the first goal scoring town in the, you know,
Soccer Saturday.
Going to Wrexham, I do apologise. But yeah, it feels like a weird thing now because we've conceded early, or at least in the first half, in a fair number of games this season now. And maybe it's a hangover from last season, but whenever we concede early, it's like, oh, here we go. I think the only exception is probably the Reading game where we turned it round. But it feels like it's nearly a given now that Rotherham concede early and might build back into it, or we might get shut out like Wrexham did to us. But, that's a message for any other team playing Wrexham this season. Don't concede early. If you concede early, unless you are the absolute hot shot going forward this season, you might not get a goal back because they'll just dig in, organise themselves, and just keep you out. And barring maybe 2 chances from us, they did exactly that. I think the closest we came was probably Nombe's chance in the second half where it was on the turn. I think if he connects with that ball a lot better, we might draw the game 1-1, but it's such a difficult chance. He's on the turn, he's not looking at goal. It's almost a hit and hope from him, and you only see the top players turning it that sweet as a nut, but Nombe didn't do that. So, yeah, I agree. The worst thing we could have done was concede early, and we did exactly that. And I think the vast majority of Rotherham fans felt that feeling of, oh, here we go, from last season, which is something that we need to break. We need to be more organised from the first whistle. And we haven't done that. And I think that's one of my pet peeves. We haven't changed the mentality from last season by actively trying to change it. We've sort of hoped that it had changed rather than going out to change it.
I think it's that how you going to change it. That kind of mindset is one of the hardest things to change. It's not impossible because teams do it, but how do you go about change? It's brought in a bucket load of players. It's trying to play exactly. I don't know how you break it. And
I think this is why I'm understanding the mentality of give it time, because it does take time to break a mentality like that, where you dig in and you have to accept it will be 0-0 at half time the vast majority of the time. But the important thing is to break that mentality, and we haven't been successful in doing it. But also at the same time, we need to break the mentality of sitting back and inviting pressure. We did that against Peterborough, and thankfully Wrexham did score early and we didn't have to do that. But it's a weird parallel that we've got. Either break the mentality of conceding early, or break the mentality of trying to hold on and then inviting pressure. We sort of have to find a middle ground, which again just comes with time. So I think we're in for a very large amount of frustrating games this season.
Yeah. Be guaranteed to be challenging, anyway. It's just not what we're told anyway. Ryan Thompson says, quickest goal ever scored against us at New York State. Yeah, not the quickest ever. Nardiello has by Paul Davis. Daniel Nardiello scored, I think, 14 seconds against Wickham a few years ago. 13,
12, 13, something like that.
Something like that. Quick. I remember it really quick. We lost the game. Anyway. Mick, Cam Humphreys. I know, but he's got to do better with that goal. Yeah, that's my first two. There's issues, but he's just got to do better. You can't let anybody get there and win that ball like he did. It's schoolboy stuff. I expect better from Cam Humphreys. I expect better from anybody, but particularly Cam Humphreys.
Yeah, I do. And to be fair, I think once he got in that position, if Cam Humphreys gets to the ball first, it's still going back at net, quite honestly. So it needed to be cut off before that run needed to be cut off before then. He's not having a great time with it at the moment, Cam, and I'm going to go on the he's just out of touch. Okay. I'm not going to say he needs dropping. He's out of touch. Let him play himself back into a bit of form. We'll go down that route, and then eventually I'm going to have to concede that we need to drop him. But the issue we've got is if you do drop him, it removes any pace we've got back there.
He saved us once or twice in the second half, didn't he? He really saved us with his pace.
It is, absolutely. So assuming you're not going to play Bramall regularly at left back, James and Rafferty have got no pace or next to no pace, certainly not enough to get you out of trouble. And McCart and Ragger, with the greatest respect, haven't got any. So the teams are going to be getting in behind you all the time. And as you rightly point out there, he got us out of the mire a few times in that second half when we were pushing and they tried to break. His pace helped; he got us out of it. So I'm hoping he's just going to be able to play himself back into some sort of form. And I think what I would say is that the way that we played yesterday, taking the goal aside, suits Cam Humphreys because we were able to put the ball on the deck and we played it around and we worked at manipulating the ball upfield rather than just hoofing it. And I think when we're playing the hoof ball, that doesn't suit his game and that causes him problems as well. So I don't know. I don't want him to be dropped. Please don't drop him, not yet. Steve, just if you're listening, don't drop him just yet. Give him a few more games.
He ain't listening.
I know he's not listening.
Kelvin says, hang on, what about the keeper? I think it's very harsh. Anybody can disagree. I think it's very harsh to blame Dawson. I don't think Dawson almost shouldn't be expecting the shot because the shot should never have come in. And it's picked with actually, I think, a decent amount of power. I don't relay anything to Dawson. Anybody else disagree?
I think you can blame keepers for a lot. And I think everything that happens, you can probably blame the keeper. But you've got to be realistic at points. And realistically, a goalkeeper of this quality doesn't do anything with that goal because they shouldn't be expected to.
Yeah.
The ball should never have come in first place.
Well, it should never. Ollie Palmer should never have been able to lay it off. That was the problem. That's where the problem obviously starts from. And which to be fair to Evans has said this pre-match he's said that McCart should have done better there, which is probably right. He wasn't too critical, to be fair to Evans on that occasion. Steve says we probably look the sharpest we have in all season the first half, but still created very, very little.
Yeah,
that's true. That is true. Kayla Wilson said we need Smith and Wood back. Yeah. Did you see Smith miss the weekend, by the way?
Yes.
That wasn't very good. But yeah.
It was excellent. Agent Smith doing his job.
Fair enough. Tom, it's a long way back. When you concede a goal like that, it's a long, long way back. Do we deserve a bit of credit for the kind of way that we acted? That there wasn't kind of much moping around. It was kind of straight away. We were on the front foot. We didn't create anything, I accept, but we were on the front foot again straight away, which we were kind of sulking around with. I didn't think.
Yeah, no, you can always credit our appetite this season because we've gone down quite a bit. Be it a goal, 2 goals, whatever, and we've always looked like it's not the end of the world. Which you got to say, last season and possibly the season before, it would have looked like you were done out. There was nothing there was nothing that was gonna resurrect that. Nobody playing, nobody. Mentality wise, they'd gone. So it's maybe a goal. Seems like a goal down almost kicks us into shape. So hopefully it doesn't, but it does seem like that's how it happens. But yeah, you got to respect, and that's where again you praise the manager because that comes from both the players and the manager. But manager in particular has to instill that kind of belief and that kind of motivation. Whether it's Evans or Rayner, one of them's done it, or Scars or whoever, but one of the coaching staff has absolutely done it. So credit where credit's due.
Yeah, completely agree. Caleb wants us to keep going, wants us to pick up the conversation on Dawson. Surely coming across. I mean, I'm just watching the goal back now. The ball was literally on the line of the 6-yard box. That if he comes and gets that, I'm saying that is really, really good that he's come and claimed it. I'm saying it's exceptional. If he hasn't come for it on the 6-yard line, it wasn't a lofted cross either. It wasn't just floated in. It was hit with a good amount of pace on that.
I just you're blaming him for blaming's sake at this point. You can blame 7 or 8 players if you really wanted to. The only players really that not even you don't want to stipulate any player, but if you're stipulating all the players, then number 1, James shouldn't number 1, McCart should challenge the header. Number 2, James should block the cross. McCart maybe could have cleared it front post. Humphreys should absolutely clear it after that, and then maybe Dawson should have saved it and/or came out. But that's 7 or 8 things that are happening there, and I think we speak a lot about goalkeepers, especially when Phillips was in there. And since Dawson's come in, I've felt no need to blame him, to criticise him. Obviously, there's some things he doesn't do so well, i.e., come for corners, come for crosses, etc.
It is an issue. I agree. Yeah,
absolutely an issue. But we've said this in the past. We've been blessed with goalkeepers for the past 2 or 3 years. I think we finally got a goalkeeper that is a solid League One goalkeeper who will make good saves, as he did in the second half, as he's done 2 or 3 times this season. Where you think, well, how on earth has he saved that? That for the fact that it's just if a goal, like Matt says, if a goalkeeper does do that, you're thinking, holy Christ, we got a good keeper on our hands here. I just I just don't see how this is coming into him. There's 3 or 4 players that should have done better themselves.
Yeah.
The only thing I found irritating about that goal was that he wore a bloody cap, and then as soon as we conceded, he took the cap off.
That
it
was
lasted
weird.
more than 30 seconds.
Yeah,
I found it bizarre that he took it off immediately after we conceded.
Yeah, that was a bit. We're going to be agreeing to disagree. Kelly Forbes says basic goalkeeping. We'll be agreeing to disagree on that one. Because I think it would have been very, very good had it done. So, Danny, do you want to give you 2 pence worth on this one? Dawson should have done better, I thought the cross was the only bit of real quality in the entire goal. The cross was really, really good cross with pace and power and everything else. That was really, really good.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just watching the goal back myself now, actually. The 6-yard box is effectively empty until Mullins goes in and gets contact on the ball. And like I say, it's exactly on the 6-yard line. So if there's no bodies in that area, Dawson's effectively in 2 minds, because if he comes and misses, where's the comment? So John Morell put in, if the keeper comes out and misses, is completely hung out to dry, and he looks an absolute fool. But if he stays at home, he still has a chance of getting some save or limb or whatever onto the ball.
He's also got to trust his defence. He's got to be able to trust them.
Exactly. And if Dawson does trust his defence to sort that out, which you will be doing that early in the game, I think, that's probably why he stays at home. But it is a no man's land situation where they're right on the edge of the 6-yard box. If they're a couple of yards into the 6-yard box, I reckon it comes and claims that. But the way the ball's coming in, it almost drops perfectly on where Mullin makes his run and scores the goal, which is a very difficult thing to deal with. But like you say, if it's that sort of ball coming in, he should be trusting Humphreys and McCart and whoever else is on the edge of the 6-yard box to clear the ball away, especially that early in the game, but they don't do that. If it's later in the game, I would point the finger more at Dawson, but because it's so early in the game, it's the defence's job to get organised straight away, and they haven't done that. And I think that's why there is a few daggers going at Dawson about it. But for me, it's a complete 2-man situation, and he's chosen to stay at home and trust his defence, which it turns out was the wrong decision. But that early in the game, you hope to turn it round later on in the game, but unfortunately we didn't, because we weren't clinical going forwards, which is something we seem to be relying on this season.
Fair enough. We all see things differently. I could not heap any less blame on Cam Dawson than I right now at the minute, honestly.
I think if you put a percentage on it, he gets like 5% of it. The vast majority just spread out to everybody else. He gets like 5% of it.
He's done, for me, he's done the right thing. But anyway, we could go on for 20 minutes, and I'm not going to because we've got other stuff to cover, but we all know where we stand, which is good. Chris Taylor said, why don't we play with the sun behind us in the first half? Which is an interesting type. We've done it a couple of times, haven't we? To be fair, we've done it in the past.
I suppose it depends on who wins the toss, doesn't it? I think Wrexham won the toss, didn't they?
Yeah, for me, you always kick towards your own fans in the second half. For me, always. But that's just me, again. I want to pick up on Rafferty, Mick, because this is a really interesting one. Because Shelley says Rafferty is terrible. All he does is pass sideways or backwards, or he'll hoof field. And that is the general consensus for people that sit around us yesterday. But Paul Davis gave him the highest rating. Gave him 8 out of 10. He was the highest rated player on the pitch. Yeah.
Really?
And I've seen other people kind of praising him, Joe Rafferty. And let's talk it through, because I think Rafferty's really struggling at the minute. I'm struggling to kind of see what he brings to the team too much. I think he's taking time to settle in. The injury didn't help, obviously, when he first came in, but Rafferty is one of those that's really struggling at the minute.
I mean, I've got no extra grind with Joe Rafferty at all, none whatsoever. I don't think. I've criticised him a couple of times for being out of position. I think earlier in the game, the Shrewsbury game, he kind of went missing for one of their goals or their goal. To give him the highest mark from yesterday, that does not make any sense. That makes absolutely zero sense. because there were at least 3 or 4 players who were head and shoulders above him in terms of performance level yesterday. He feels a little bit out of place at the moment. I don't know. I don't know whether he's one of these players that has to play himself in a little bit or what. Both him and Reece James on the other side, positionally at times, for me, they found wanting almost in every game. I don't think he was particularly bad. I don't think he was particularly good. I think he was just steady. And I've got, as far as he's concerned, I'm to get top marks is just mind blowing. I mean, Joe Powell yesterday I thought was absolutely outstanding. I thought he was excellent. I thought he ran that midfield. He came picking the ball up. He did really, really well. And I've said before that I didn't think he'd been playing up to scratch. But yesterday I thought he's head and shoulders above Joe Rafferty in terms of performance level. That's a bizarre state of affairs. I thought Chris T was good yesterday as well. I think he broke play up well and he was wanting the ball. Both him and Powell yesterday, because we were playing it on the deck, they were involved in the game a lot more. And again, performance-wise, way ahead of Joe Rafferty. So I don't know. I don't understand where he's got that from. It's a bit strange. But, well, we all see it differently, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. As we've already proven in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I straight differently to 2,500, well, no, and to 3 or 4 Wrexham fans, got slated for it.
Yeah. Nick Kamek says Rafferty is reliable but negative. Ryan Thompson, Rafferty is fine. He's a defensive fullback, probably the most reliable. He offers little going forward, and that's why Pompey got rid. We shouldn't need to rely on him offensively. But
no, absolutely right. I think Ryan's hit the nail fairly and squarely on head with that.
Yeah. He offers nothing going forward, and that's the issue. But in modern day football,
we're playing a back 4, So in reality, we're not playing wing backs. So therefore, he doesn't need to offer us anything going forward.
But other players did. You're going back. You look at Josh Emmanuel as a right back. How much did he? That was flat back 4. How much did he offer you going forward? He was brilliant in that season.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
he shouldn't, but in the way that we are playing at the moment and the way that we're setting up, we don't set up for the 2 fullbacks to go bombing on, except when Colin Bramall's playing there.
Yeah. Interesting setup in terms of the front 3, Tom. It was width without being kind of crazy width. Nombe was the main man. I thought he struggled, mainly because he's struggling with physicality. He lost every time, as you'd expect, maybe. And Colin Bramall, I thought in the first half he struggled. I thought he looked out of position occasionally, but again, other people have seen this slightly different. How did you see the front 3? I suppose first half, because we changed it pretty early on the second half.
I thought that they were. I thought they had all the promise of being nimble, versatile, quick, and didn't show much of it. I think, like I said at the start, I think Wilkes got caught quite often in a 2v1, likewise with Bramall. And these are players that, Bramall especially, is not used to beating a man. And I know he's used to blitzing past a man. He's not used to tricks and flicks and all this. And, this goes into the Rafferty point again. On the left-hand side, I think what helped out and made us a bit more threatening down that side is you had not only Bramall there, but then you had James on an overlap, and then you had Powell helping out. So you essentially had a 3-on-2 at all points. So that allowed balls into the box. Whereas on the right, it was quite often a 3v1 against Wilkes. Rafferty was nowhere to be seen, and that could be, defensively. I really like Rafferty. I think he's really good defensively. But going forward, he doesn't really overlap. He's not got blistering pace. Neither does James, but James does well overlapping. He's got a bit of an engine on him, and his crosses into the box are really disappointing, especially Rafferty's. And on top of that, you've not got someone supporting from the midfield. Hack should be there, but Hacks is then bombing forward into the box. So then you got Teehee to help, and he's kind of sitting in front. It seems like this team's got a lot of potential with playing with wingers, but it really needs to sort itself out first. If you are playing with wingers, you need your fullbacks involved, both defensively and going forward, and you need your midfielders to help out as well. I think it's got a lot of work to do, but I think we took a lot more joy on the left simply because we had an overload there, and it was easier to get balls into the box, and it was easier to make space, etc. Whereas Wilkes was just left by himself a lot. It's unfortunate, but I have faith that I think these players will come good. I think we've still got Andre Green to come back. I think he'll be an excellent player out wide. We've still got. I think we missed Clark Harris, and I think although he played really well yesterday, I think Bramall is an excellent impact sub. I'd start Clark Harris over him and move Nombe back left. I again didn't have a bad game at all, but he's just an excellent impact sub. Is the way that I personally see it anyway. So yeah, I think Bramall held his width well. Wilkes not so much, but I think it's because he didn't get much support down there. It was often a 1v3.
Yeah. Grant Thompson, I think, sums up my points, my thoughts. Bramall could be an excellent winger, but he needs to be coached. It's a completely new position, and it's very clear. He didn't play badly. He just positionally, certainly out of possession, looked lost. It looked like he didn't know where he was meant to be all the time. And like you said there, Tom, he doesn't know how to beat a man unless it's knock it and run. He ain't got a clue how to beat somebody with skill, which is a pretty important skill you need when it comes to playing out wide, which Wilkes can do and Nombe can do when he's playing out there as well. Like I mentioned there, Danny, that Sam Nombe played up front and really, really struggled. I think he can play as a central striker. I think you need to play to his strengths, and it didn't work yesterday. They just bullied him. As Wrexham would do, it's their style. They've got big, strong defenders. And Nombe, what he did was fine, I thought. I thought he brought the ball into play when he could quite well. But he was just bullied all game long, and he had no support either, which you need to help Nombe out. He can't do that job on his own, I don't think. He doesn't need that support.
Yeah, I agree. I think with Nombe, he doesn't have the aerial threat that being a striker on his own should have. We saw last season he was deployed as a lone striker in the Championship, and he wasn't the best, but he does what Nombe does, which he presses high, he harasses the defence, and he tries to get the ball back and get it in possession. But if we play with a front three or with wingers, ideally we want the target man in the middle to at least get something out of that, and then Nombe sort of mops up the pieces if it gets cleared or if it takes a deflection. He's sort of there to take advantage of it, which we saw last season. He played better doing that role, and he's played better doing that role this season, and he's got a few more goals. So yeah, it were a bit weird seeing him up front on his own when that isn't his best suited position, but they sort of had the choice of, Clark Harris isn't available, so there's then Hugill. And I don't think Evans is sold on Hugill in the league, certainly. So it's the book sort of stopped with Nombe, and, he tried to do the job, and I think he did it to the best of his ability, but unfortunately it's not his game, and we didn't play to his strengths. And if you want your striker to score, you tend to want to play to their strengths. So I don't think it's necessarily a knock against Nombe. I think it's a knock against the tactics deployed in trying to go forward with Nombe as a striker.
Yeah. Harry St. John's Clark might be more useful than we realise. How possible. But time will tell on that when he comes back in 3 weeks' time, whatever it is. Mick, let's talk about Mr. Holmes that came on in the second half. God, he were a breath of fresh air. I was really concerned starting the season that he was being completely overhyped by Evans and other people, because he didn't look good in pre-season, but league action's a complete kettle of fish. Having seen that on Saturday, I'd be saying, right, when can we start this guy? Because you won't get many more players more experienced in League One than James McLean, and he mugged him off once or twice in that second half. I would be absolutely starting him. If it's not this Tuesday, I'd be starting him on next Saturday. He's ready for me. Yeah,
well, it might be the answer to you. How do you get the best out of Malik Wilkes? and that might be to bring him on as an impact sub every now and again. So yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. And what I would also say is the fact that you're going to. We started on Saturday with a left back playing as a left striker, left-hand side striker of a front three, when you've got a left-footed front three player on the bench, blows my mind. I love Colm Bramall massively. I really do. I like him a lot, and there is a place for him, but it's not as part of the front three. That's Joseph Hungbo's place, and why he didn't start blows my mind. Jack Holmes, he is definitely. He's a similar sort of player to Hungbo, isn't he? In terms of his desire to pick up the ball and run at players. So for me, Tuesday night, Holmes, Hungbo, Nombe should be that front three, because you've got pace, you've got players who are willing to stay out wide, one side or the other, and run at players. They're creative, and you've got somebody who can put the ball in the back of the net. Clark Harris is going to be out for a couple more weeks. So if that's what you're going to do, if you're going to have that attacking front three, have attacking players. And that's not a criticism of Colin Bramall in any way. Not in any way. But you're putting a square peg in a round hole when you've got a round peg sat on bench. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. So yeah, but it looks good. It does look good. But again, because of his age and his experience, he's going to need to be sort of nursed into that position, into.
Absolutely right. But he played. I think they played 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes. He played nearly the entire half.
He did, yeah. And as you say, there were times when he gave McLean quite a torrid time, knocked him off the ball a few times, and and he's an experienced player. So yeah, he's definitely ready. I think whether he's ready to play a full 90 is another matter, but I'd certainly be starting him very soon, given the position that we're in, given the form of Wilkes, which is patchy, and the fact that, well, Hungbo, I don't know, I don't understand that. I just do not understand why he's not playing, but I don't think he does either, quite honestly.
No, but these are good issues to have out there. If you're chasing a game and you can bring on Jack Holmes and Joe Hungbo, that's a great option to have. You could say they should be starting, absolutely, but these are, even if we started those two, you still got Malik Willis to come off bench and Colin Bramall or whatever. These are good options to have.
100%.
It's the first signs that it's an area of the squad that is a positive area at the minute, because you've got options to come off. I want to mention Liam Kelly, Tom, because he was on the bench, and I just thought for the last 20 minutes, last 30 minutes, we could have done with something like Liam Kelly, just to see if he could break them down, just to see if there was a gap he could find, or to move the ball a little bit quicker through the midfield. Because Soti, I thought he did okay, but Kelly's better at what he does. I was surprised if he was on the bench that we couldn't have seen him for that 15, 20 minutes at the end.
I disagree. I think if you're Steve Evans in the stands and you watch the game, this is my opinion, right? Is that you're watching those last 20 minutes, and in hindsight, it would have been great. But in those last 20 minutes, I still backed us to get a goal. I mean, and I know for a fact he would never have rested on his laurels and gone, let me try something different. I think, if anything, I'm surprised he didn't bring on, I know he wasn't on the bench, but an Asong or someone more attacking. I think if as soon as we got into those last 20 minutes, if you bring on Kelly, it's almost like it's a defensive type player. So who'd you bring him on for? Teehee? They kind of do the same thing. I know what you're saying about he's more creative, and he is, but is he that much more creative that you're going to risk him just back from injury against a team that you're doing well against, and you're really trying to break them down? I don't know. I kind of agree with you. I guess I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. But for me, I think maybe in hindsight, you would have brought him on for 10, 15 minutes. But in that moment, I wasn't thinking get him on. So not sure how it would have worked, kind of thing. I'd much rather see him play on Tuesday, get more minutes in that way, against probably, again, a team that is going to try and sit deep and sort of dictate and let us dictate play, where you're going to need both him and possibly Teehee as well. So we'll see. But I'm not disappointed he didn't bring him on, so to say.
Yeah. Josh Caswell said he reckons Powell should play in a 10 as he's the creative and play T and Kelly as a holding midfield. Again, there's something Steve Evans said pre-season that he thought Joe Powell would better played further forward. And he proceeded to play him almost as deep as possible. But this is what Steve Evans said, that Powell would better going forward.
Did a good job yesterday. He was excellent yesterday, Powell.
Yeah. Steve says...
Oh, go on. Sorry.
Go on, Tom.
I was going to say, where does that leave Hacks then? Because this is something that I thought about yesterday as well, in that if he doesn't score, he's not the most impactful player, especially in a game like that, because when he gets the ball, he's not the most comfortable with it, and he's not going to drive. He's not going to do this, that, and the other. He's a really good player for when you're playing against a team that you need to stand up against and sort of put foot in and this, that, and the other. I worry for where his place is in the team now, because if it's not, if he's not scoring, which he can do in those positions, and he's getting chances, that he's not a creative player. And then if you want to bring Kelly back, he's the only person that you're going to drop him for, really. So I don't want, this isn't saying drop him. This is just a hypothetical to everyone. What do you do with him?
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know if I mentioned Humbo Bramwell having a bit of a ding-dong at the end of the game. Ding-dong? That might be overplaying it, to be honest.
I think it proved they care, didn't it?
Yeah, I
think Humbo was annoyed because Bramwell almost barged into him, didn't it, at the last kick of the game? Yeah. Which kind of put Humbo off balance. But I suspect Humbo's frustrated. Very, very frustrated. Understandably so.
He's not getting any game time, is he? And as soon as he does, obviously, they don't go quite right for him. So, yeah.
Yeah. Right, let's move forward to Leyton Orient. We'll do a quick preview of that game. It's our first meeting since that game at Wembley for Leyton Orient. So I'm going to speak to their guy tomorrow for the scouting report, so I'll hopefully put it out tomorrow as well, because they've been on a journey. Jesus, they've been on an absolute journey since that game in 2014. We haven't won at Leyton Orient since 2006. The referee, this is wrong probably, Alex Chilowitz is his name, and I don't even remember, it's the American referee we had against Millwall last season.
Oh, God.
I remember him being quite good. Now, I might be wrong.
Was it Millwall home or away last season?
Home. The two
win. Right, okay. Yeah, gotcha.
Changes. Talk to me about changes, Danny, because we don't have to make any change. You could start the same 11. How tempted would you be to make change like Jack Holmes or Humbo or whatever, or Kelly even coming in?
Oh God. Whilst you guys were chatting, I was sort of brainwaving something that we talked, like someone in the comments mentioned about playing Holmes as the 10 or Powell as the 10, and and then Nombe being up front with like Clark Harris not being available. That could work, but I think the 10 would have to play close to the striker and them sort of bounce off each other a little bit, rather than having a defined striker and your 10 more of an interchangeable position where one presses and one mops up and then they switch round. And I think if we were to start Holmes on Tuesday, which I don't think we will, but if we were to do that, he'd fit in quite well bouncing off Nombe. So out of all the changes I'd make that change and bring Holmes in as the 10 in midfield. Other than that, I think the way we progressed forwards against Wrexham, as slow as it was and passing sideways, it still worked when we did it well. And, Evans has got Monday to speak to the players, so he might reiterate that. So I would go potentially unchanged, but, potentially make like one or two changes here and there, depending on fitness and how they are, etc., etc. But I don't think we should uproot the tree and change the approach completely. I think the groundwork is there. We just need to, not to quote Evans, like, oh God, slap my wrist. And yeah, I do think we just need to be more clinical going forwards. We just need to be in the faces more and be up for it. It just feels like we're not up for it. Maybe that's potentially Evans calling them the Harlem Globetrotters, and it took any enthusiasm out of the game completely, because that's exactly what happened with the Birmingham game. But with this, Leyton Orient are going to be up for it because they want a bit of something from the 2014 playoff final. So we need to feed off that and be in the faces, press high, get balls out wide and into the box, learn how to defend crosses. If we do that, then we'll be completely fine against Orient because they're having a worse start to the season than us. But if we don't do that, it'll go the exact same way and we'll concede early and it'll be, oh no, we've done it again.
The problem is we cannot be able to learn to defend set pieces on one day's training. So don't expect that to change.
But we can book our ideas up and at least focus on it early doors better. I think over the course of 90 minutes, they will still be issues, but from the first minute, if you switch on straight away, then we will have a better day of it and the confidence will grow throughout the game. If we don't do that, then we are in trouble again.
Yeah, I think you're fully right. Ref rant, mate. Do you want a ref rant?
Yes. Yeah. Why did you come to me as the Grand Prix is lining up to start? You could have done somebody else. He was awful. It was just like being back in Championship. He was absolutely woeful yesterday by a country mile, the worst referee we've had all season. He lost it completely at various points throughout the game. It was just rubbish, absolutely dreadful. And I hope we don't get him again this season because that was woeful.
That's what Evan said as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't, again, something else that Wrexham fans didn't seem to understand. The referee was terrible. We're not saying that's why we lost the game, but it was just a terrible referee.
Exactly.
We'll come on. We'll do that in a bit. We'll do predictions now. Mick, I just want to say congratulations. He has extended his lead at the top of the table.
It's incredible.
How did I extend the lead? Because I picked 3-2 to them.
No, apologies, you didn't. Apologies, you kept the leads the same. Joy and Ben picked up points. Apologies. So Joy is now level with Danny. Ben's now level with Kev. So yeah, there are your league standings. We have Kev, obviously, is going 3-0 Tuesday night. We have Joy, who has gone 2-1 for us. And Ben has gone 1-0, looking for a hat-trick of points on the board. Danny, you're next on my list. Don't know why, but you are on my list. What do you reckon?
I reckon slight improvement going forward from us, but the defensive things will still rear the head. So I'm going to say 1-1.
1-1. Fair enough. Tom, chance to lower the to bring yourself back within.
No way we're going to keep a clean sheet. So 3-1. I'm going to to go.
3-1 to us. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Mick, chance to extend your lead. What do you want?
Yeah, 2-1 Rotherham. Like Tom, I just can't see us keeping a clean sheet. I'd love for that to be the case, but 2-1 Rotherham. I do think we'll have too much for him.
Yes, I think you're probably right. Steve Gundy says 2-0 to Orient. Harry says 1-1. Josh Caswell saying we're going to win 2-1. YouTube viewer says 3-1 to us. Kaylee Wilson says we're going to win 2-1. Paula Rhodes said earlier in the comments she's got the day off work. 2-0 to us. So it's a better win. Kayla says they're going 2-1. Paramed says 0-0. It's going to be a ball fest. Remember, it's on Sky Sports Plus, so if you are not making the trip all the way down to Brisbane Road or whatever it's called nowadays, you can obviously watch it through there. If you do go, say hello to Tom, say hello to Joy. Those two should be in situ. There's better ones anyway. Richard says 2-1 to the Millers. Says nice to meet me and Ben yesterday. I saw Richard on the way into the ground yesterday. And we should say it was nice to see Colin, Mick's friend. Colin came to the game yesterday. It was lovely to meet Colin, the Wrexham fan, who was very level-headed. And
yes,
he told us that we were lucky, that Wrexham were lucky to win the game.
But what does he know?
I mean,
let's be fair to Colin. He's a lovely bloke, but he's only been watching Wrexham for 40 years, so he's not really got much of a handle on how they play.
Yeah, exactly. Paul's going to give us a If you see a lady waving to you on Tuesday, waving to the camera on Tuesday, and that's Paula. You can give a wave back, but that's not how telly's work, so it's a bit pointless to do it. But we'll see what happens. Anything else you need to mention, fellas?
Not for me.
No.
Wonderful. We will be back on Thursday evening, which will be a review of the Leyton Orient game, plus a look ahead to Stevenage. Alex Ravel's return to New York Stadium. on Saturday evening. Make sure you've subscribed. If you haven't done so already, go over and check the instant reaction to see what all the fuss is about on there. And subscribe. If you haven't done it, make sure you've subscribed. If you're watching on X, follow us on X as well. Make sure you give the video a like or a like on YouTube or a like on Twitter. If you're listening on iTunes and Spotify, make sure you've given us a 5-star rating, which wherever it allows you to do so, and give a comment again wherever it allows you to do so. Thank you, fellas. Thank you, Mick. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Danny. It's been lovely. Well, it's been something. Yeah. And we'll see you all next time. And as always, up the Millers.
Up the Millers.
I think I always made the comment that once a Miller, always a Miller.
Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant! I don't believe it! I swear I do not believe it! Good Evans, he's done it again. Another promotion for the big man.
I've got 12 bottles of champagne in my office and we're going to drink them all night.
Do me a favor, drop me off in